Did I turn my microphone on? This is always this is what we do. Did I turn my microphone? Don't forget to turn your microphone on.
My microphone's on now.
Plug it in.
And now I'm happy. Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome for our third Fireside chat. And last week we told you a little bit about music that we've been listening to. We obviously are REM fans. That's how we kind of start our night before dinner. But we decided that Phase 2 needed a new song. We needed to turn the page, if you will. We needed something new. And as we were sitting there, we decided we need to be happy. So happy Tuesday, everyone.
Happy Tuesday.
Welcome back for our third Fireside chat. Cheers. Happy Tuesday. Father Jack, happy Tuesday.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Chin chin.
Boy, it's been a crazy couple of weeks since we last met with everyone.
2 weeks have gone by.
Yeah, I mean, gee, let's see. We've started meeting with people again. We actually have had people physically present for Mass, weather permitting.
Yeah.
That was pretty good, actually. Our first weekend.
Big step.
Big step. Pentecost Sunday, we had 2 outdoor masses, well attended. The first one on the Vigil had about 160 people. The Sunday evening had about half that, but everyone was just happy to be together. And happy. Oh, it's like Transfiguration. No, everyone was genuinely excited to be together. And, you know, obviously this past Saturday we had a little drizzle. And that's what we're going to call it. Just a little drizzle.
Saturday.
Yeah, a little drizzle. And, yeah, so we had to move inside. Actually, we had some significant damage out in the back. Unfortunately, when a tree landed on the shed that's in back of the rectory, between the rectory and the convent, the old convent. And fortunately, there's no damage, so that's great. As we gather tonight, okay, Alexa, stop. I've had enough.
She's learning to listen.
She's learning to listen. She's on a strict diet. So first, we'd like to introduce our distinguished philosophers who are joining us this evening. We have, from left to right, we have Winnie the Pooh. We have, I believe that's Aristotle. We have Piglet, and we have Homer. So, folks, thanks for being with us.
Wisdom from the ages.
Wisdom
Bring to our room.
I mean, if we can preach about Sesame Street, might as well bring out Pooh Corner. I mean, so, how was your day?
Not bad. Today I kind of took as a day off. Back when the world was once
Remember those?
different.
Remember we used to have days off?
And I used to be able to go away and see my folks.
Back in the good old days.
Sleep in once or twice a week. So today I slept in.
Nice.
I stayed up a little later last night.
I was up at 5.
I was watching. So if you remember, one of my New Year's resolutions was to get through all the Marvel movies, the Marvel world, through in the year 2020, and I'm almost up to the most current. I have 4 left, and I finished last
That's pretty
night
good.
Spider-Man Homecoming, which was actually really good. And I spent a little time on the porch last night after we kind of retired for the evening. Oh. It was a beautiful, clear night.
Yesterday was an absolutely gorgeous
little
day.
breeze, and even late it was cool, but it wasn't cold. So nice. I slept in this morning.
God bless you.
Finished Spider-Man, went for a jog. What else did I do? Oh, my mom has an artistic talent. She paints.
Yeah,
she does a lot of
you have a painting that your mom painted in the guest room, I believe.
So I added a little bit more of my mother's artwork to my suite. She did some pencil copies of Van Gogh, small colored pencil copies of Van Gogh.
Nice.
And I ordered some frames on Amazon, and they are now hanging in my in my room.
Nice, very nice. I could draw you a picture if you'd like.
Yeah, I'll frame it.
No, actually, my niece and my nephew. By the way, my niece today is 14 years old.
and it feels like just yesterday.
Happy
I was
birthday.
Eliza, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
You are not watching. I know you're not, but I remember holding her for the first time. She was just a little piglet like that.
Another birthday before we forget is one of our parishioners is 90 years old today. It's the
Yes.
father of Bernadette. So happy birthday
Happy
to
birthday.
you. Bernadette, if you are watching, type in your dad's name. I don't think if you did send me his name, I lost it in the messages. But happy birthday to your dad, 90 years old, celebrating in an adapted way in these days. But we want to honor those 90 years
Absolutely.
of life and his dedication to our parish.
Let's see, this coming Friday, the 12th, Jim Kitsock, one of our facilities managers, he's going to be
29 again. So, Jimmy, if you're watching, happy birthday.
Happy
Inanticipo.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, so good. So are people starting to log on, or?
We have 111 with us.
All right,
A lot
that's
of people
good.
just saying,
We don't have sound.
I'm
people
on.
are saying, good evening. Someone is wondering where my mic is. Is that because you can't hear or because it's hidden on my shirt? Anyway, comment if you can't hear me and I'll try to figure something out. But my mic is on, so...
Yeah. Well, like we said, a lot has taken place in the last couple of weeks. Phase 1 of reopening has gone smoothly.
We have started to talk about phase 2. Our mantra around these parts, and it's for the safety of the staff, the safety of every parishioner, is slow and steady.
One of the things I noticed, I don't even know if you noticed it, but I saw people who actually came to Mass and didn't even get out of their car for communion.
And that's
And that's
just
okay.
and that's okay. And that's where people are. It was
Really so nice to see people.
coming to Mass again. And everyone who came
This past weekend and the weekend before, everyone was respectful.
social distancing was not an issue.
It was just so nice to see.
People again, and not like from a distance.
It was great, actually. It really was. It was a little stressful, I have to admit.
The first weekend was
Especially
very
the first
stressful.
weekend.
Yeah.
And giving out communion is odd.
It is.
With masks on and face shields. And we know it's awkward.
It is.
But that's okay.
Yep.
That's okay.
If
It's making you feel safer and wanting to feel if you feel comfortable coming to receive communion because we are taking the precautions. We're
Purelling ourselves
and we're masking ourselves up and we're putting the face shield on.
Yeah.
I mean, we're taking every precaution. Why do we wear a mask? It's not for my safety, it's for your safety. And
I know that there's a lot of banter out there. Is this pointless?
at this point, I don't even think it matters. It's a precaution. And I mean, I've already told Father Jack that when we finally don't have to wear masks any longer, I'm actually going to put a whole collage together of all the masks that I've had. And it's going to be my COVID-19 board of fame. It's going to be my
Yeah.
trophy. How many masks? I actually have friends, and they might be watching right now. You might have noticed that on the Feast of Pentecost, the Solemnity of Pentecost, last weekend, we were both wearing red masks. And so Lynn and Megan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
They are making us liturgically correct masks because, we are slaves to fashion. So
We have to worry about those liturgical norms as well. So.
What about, we didn't talk about bringing this up, but it's kind of funny. We received some new masks over the weekend that actually fit quite well. There's a few different varieties of patterns, but they have a unique origin.
Oh, they do. Let me show you. There's my napkin. They really are quite. So is Deb watching us?
I don't know. Is Deb Fitz? If you're watching,
Deb
chime
Fitz,
in.
if you are watching, and if this is one of them, let me know. But it's amazing. So one of our parishioners, Deb Fitzgibbons, she came by last Sunday and told us that wanted to give us some new masks so that we can just kind of keep swapping them out. This is one of my ordinary time masks, obviously. But she said that, a lot of the fabric stores don't have fabric. So what do you do? And so she said, try it on. So I had another one. It's downstairs. Has a lovely plaid pattern. And actually, I was at field day, and this was last week. I was wearing my mask, and somebody drove by and said, "Oh, that is a cool mask, Father Rodney. It's awesome." And I wanted to say, "Yeah, it's made from boxer shorts." Hey, if it works, right? So, I guess.
Little does he know, he took out of the used bag. I took out of the new bag.
No, I did not. Unless Deb only gave me from the used bag.
Anyway, so our phase 1 of reopening public mass, I think, has gone well. Yes, let's pray for good weather every Saturday at 4 and Sunday at 5. I think the sound has been good enough. We're working on tweaking some things on the Sunday experience. If you haven't come, feel free to drive by. Feel free to view the recording of that mass on the TV on YouTube. It'll give you a sense of what it was like.
It's amazing.
And
it's windy out there, and you don't hear the wind.
Many of you, I'm sure, were watching live stream, and
But you see my lovely face shield. It's. I think I'm going to be buried with that. That's how I'll be in my casket.
And once again, the obligation to attend Sunday Mass has been dispensed.
Correct.
For the time being. We still keep the Lord's Day holy, but we don't have to actually come together for Mass. So if you still are reserved or nervous or have some reasons to stay home, that is okay.
And, we've obviously spoken with our brother priests, and, not to poo-poo anything anyone's doing, but a lot of priests have added masses.
They originally added masses.
And now they're realizing that people aren't showing up, so they've rescinded those actions, and they're back to a more normal, if you will.
Yeah, I know of a parish in the area that they went back to their normal schedule, 5 masses a weekend, and after having done that 2 weekends in a row, they realized, you know what, they don't even need the 5 masses. For instance, there was 15 people who came to one of them, because people are rightly so still reserved, and that's
cautious.
okay.
Yeah.
So all the parishes are readjusting. I know another parish locally that is trying to preserve their weekend schedule, but they're having a hard time finding volunteers and supplies to clean in between masses.
And that's one of the things that we did here at Transfiguration of the Lord Parish. Monica did a great job. She sent out an email blast to anyone in parish ministries, and just saying, okay, here it is. If you, just because usually those in ministries, they understand and
They're adaptable.
and only a handful of people really responded.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. No,
It's just an indication that
Where people are.
we kind of see it as an indication of our first step was the right step, a cautious step, a limited reopening.
I mean, obviously, we are at the mercy of weather.
That's the problem. But
It's working. We have to relearn how to be ministers again in terms of, giving out communion, socially distancing people. We're not. One of the things that we both would readily admit is one of the first things that people usually do, especially if they know us well, it's you get a hug from somebody, and there's just not any of that going on, which is fine. But, as we envision phase 2, one of the things that we are both very sensitive to, and, I have a solemn duty to this, is we have 153 confirmandi who should have been confirmed
May 2nd.
May 2nd, and
105 first communicants.
who should have received First Communion. And Bennett, so I don't know if you were watching, but I'm just going to give you a shout out because, Andrew, you broke my heart on Sunday. When you came forward with your mom, I thought to myself, you should have already made your First Communion. And so, working with Mrs. Corvese, the Director of Faith Formation, parents, whoever, if you have someone who's to be confirmed or make First Communion, you will be getting an email from Mrs. Corvese. We have already identified 6 dates, 6 time slots for confirmation, and we are working towards First Communion, but how we're going to approach confirmation. I've already spoken with the bishop. He said to me today that if he cannot come, he will just delegate me, which is fine. You validly confirmed, just as I confirmed somebody the other day. What we'll do is we're going to have, as of right now, it's alphabetical, just for the sake of simplicity and fairness. We're going to have 3 confirmations that have 25 confirmandi and 3 confirmations with 26 confirmandi. We're going to do these over a series of... My goal is to get all of the confirmation students confirmed by the end of June. Think we can do it. I'm just looking for parents to work with us. You know, I understand that sponsors might not be able to be present, but one of the great things about
The life of our church is
you can always be a confirmation sponsor. No parents, you cannot be a confirmation sponsor, just to get that out of the way. But people can serve as proxies, and parents, you can serve as a proxy. If a confirmation sponsor lives in California, for example, and cannot be here, we need to do this for our students. We are just going to simply assign, but obviously, if you cannot absolutely make a specific date that you've been assigned, we're going to work with you. You know, we're not dictators here. In these difficult times, we want to make things easy. But one of the things that we are going to do, and the reason for the staggering in the 25, the 26, the 25, the 26, we're going to do it outside. Because people, and I've received several emails and texts and messages from people saying, I feel much more safe being outside. And we will make your confirmation as special as we possibly can. I mean, we want God's Spirit to be thrust upon you so that you can go and just change the world by what God gives you. First communicants, yeah, I know there's a lot of fanfare. We're not going to do the normal gowns and things like that, but we're going to make your First Communion as special as possible. We had a couple of weddings here this past weekend, and the brides were kind of funny because they were wearing, each of them were wearing very fancy, lacy, jeweled masks. And I said, you know, you're COVID brides, and that's what we do.
The Bennetts are watching, by the way.
Good.
And we have a message from Allison. We understand,
But we're going to change. We're going to fix that.
And Andrew seems not to have realized yet. Andrew is a tricky one.
He's a tricky one, yeah.
He once, last year, fooled me into thinking he had already received First Communion because he knows exactly what to do. He's observant and he watches. But Mom and Dad are always with him to keep him in line.
So that's kind of that's like looking forward to phase 2. That's one of the things that we really want to focus on. And again, you know, we're already starting. We're going to have our first 2 public indoor funerals. And really, once you space off seats, you really can't get a lot of people in the pews. That's what we've realized.
Yeah, if we were to do confirmation inside,
we would have to do between 11 and 13 confirmations, depending on how. It's just the social distancing. I mean,
Maybe I should take some pictures for our next
Fireside chat just to show you what the pews look like, all roped off. I mean, it's just.
So phase 2 will be our implementation of the sacraments of initiation for our youth. That's what we're focusing on and working on
and
right
our
now.
CIA
And our CIA.
Yes, those are that's kind of our phase 2. I don't, you know, the guidelines given to us from the diocese are very specific. If you have more than one church in your parish, you are limited to only opening one church. And seriously, and I know I'm going to sound like a broken record because I said this 2 weeks ago, but the cost of sanitizing and properly disinfecting a church after each use is just really expensive. And so, folks, don't think we're being lazy. We're trying to keep you safe, and we're trying to best utilize parish resources, financial resources. So, as the summer moves on, we'll see what happens. Anything else? Anyone saying?
Just to kind of circle back a little bit, we found out the 90th birthday congrats goes to Paul Dumas, And
birthday,
also, I have to shout out to my own great aunt, Eva Jean, who is watching, and it is her birthday today, too. I actually noticed both of my great aunts from my dad's side are watching, Eva Jean and Donna.
Is Eva Jean the
And
Rachel Maddow person?
I just had to. Father Jack did tell me about this, so yeah, God bless you.
So happy birthday, Eva Jean. We love you.
Happy birthday to all of our birthdays out there.
With regard to the sacraments, I think people get it. People understand.
But there is a desire here
Yep.
to get that done because it is important. And I will again say, Allison Bennett, Mrs. Bennett came forward for communion on Sunday, and there was Andrew with her, and it just dawned on me, he should have received already. And so we're going to that's going to be a little bit more complicated because we have to work on first reconciliation. And I think we have a tentative plan.
Yeah.
We'll each do like an hour in the morning and each do an hour in the afternoon, and one of us will be in our pandemic box, one of us will be outside, and we'll just, at two different times, just to get this, I don't want to say check the box, but get it over and done with so our young people who are coming with families can receive the Lord in the Eucharist. I think that's so important.
With regard to RCIA, the specific plans are in formation. They're in formation.
Thank you, Arlene. They're in formation.
And on other sacramental news, this Saturday in Fall River, there will be the ordination of Peter, who is becoming a transitional deacon, and Steve, who will be ordained a priest for our diocese. And
we were both invited to the ordination.
I thank you,
Steve Booth, Deacon Steve, for the invitation, as I said to you in my email, but I know that invitations are limited, and I'd rather him give it to another relative than me. Obviously, Father Jack is the Assistant Vocations Director, so it's important for him to go. So he's going to be representing the firm, and I will be watching it live stream.
And like all of these sacraments, it's going to be a very different type of gathering. Yeah. And the priest and the two who to be ordained were given a very limited number of tickets, and we'll see how they space us out. But life has to go on, right?
Clearly.
We have to adapt to the health standards, but we will continue to take those steps. And comment came in from Carrie Smith.
Oh, hi,
saying,
Carrie.
Great job on the announcements this morning. You ventured into a new world of...
I became... So the director of the school, yours truly, Mrs. Lorenko, asked me last night if I would like to lead morning prayer and announcements. And I was a little nervous. I have to admit, I've done
So
this.
every morning since the beginning of the school building closing, Mrs. Lorenko has come on Facebook Live from St. Mary's Sacred Heart for about 9 a.m. to begin the school day. And it actually begins my day. I join her, the parents and kids who are there.
I didn't see you this morning.
And we pray.
That's because his pastor was leading it. He figured he got a pass.
But this morning, how'd it go?
I was up at 5. I was nervous.
So Father Rodney was the face of St. Mary's Sacred Heart this morning.
And not because Mrs. Lorenko's healthy, and she just asked me if I wanted to do it. And I said, sure, absolutely. And it was fun. And, a little
Another
reflection.
great job from Mrs. Wojcik.
Thank you, Mrs. Wojcik, my neighbor.
We have to circle back to lower grades. I have a story, too.
I know you do. But, no, it was good. And actually, Mrs. Lorenko usually does something... they have that prayer book that they use, which is not necessarily in sync with our lectionary. But I was able to talk about, the gospel, which I didn't preach on tonight, is you are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. And I just kind of wanted our saints and our teachers who have just done a phenomenal job to shine forth and kind of just an opportunity to pray with a community that I miss. Haven't seen you in 3 months. But it's... But just before you circle back to your... Because I heard you say Mrs. Wojcik, so... We are going to have an event here on Friday. There are going to be 2 events, actually. One is actually at the school, and one is here in the evening. Our kindergartners are going to have their... They called it a stepping up ceremony when I was in kindergarten. Their graduation, which is going to be in the circular driveway at Sacred Heart, the rectory driveway, where Smash students, you are usually dropped off in the morning, and so the little ones are going to have a ceremony on Friday morning. Our graduates are going to have a parade of sorts. Friday evening, they're going to gather on Richards Ave, and they're going to, because North Washington is going to be closed for dinner, they're going to barrel around and come down Park Street and into the parking lot. And actually, if you are watching and you'd like to watch it, you can always go on to St. Mary's Sacred Heart Facebook Live on Friday. We are going to have that. We'll use our little radio frequency, and it'll be on Facebook. So really looking forward to that. Mrs. Lorenko and I have put some work into this, and I think it's going to be good. We will have speakers, 3 student speakers, the 2 co-presidents, and then 1 student who will read a poem. They will already have received their diplomas, and I'm not going to tell you, but there is a surprise. There is a surprise.
Ooh.
You will be the only class to actually ever get this from the school.
Ooh, I don't even know what it is.
I don't tell you everything.
Surprises are fun.
Surprises are fun.
So congrats to our grade 8. Their
Yes.
last day of school was yesterday at St. Mary's Sacred Heart.
Why? Because
Pastor gave them a gift.
I said, you're
the rest
done.
of the grades finish on Thursday.
Thursday. Yep.
And last day of school for Fian is tomorrow. I'm going to try to get into some of the classrooms. That's one thing. One of my... it's not a regret because we were busy doing many, many things. But if... let's pray this doesn't happen, but if we go virtual next year at St. Mary's Sacred Heart, I would love to visit the kids through the virtual classrooms a little more often. I only got to 1 class this year.
Yes.
Last week. I visited one of the lower grades at St. Mary's Sacred Heart and for their bi-weekly Zoom meeting together.
And it was interesting, wasn't it?
And it was fun. It was good. It was fun. The teacher had them doing some activities where they had to move around the house, and it was
dress up day.
It was also fancy day.
Fancy day.
So shout out to Delia, who looked beautiful, and the boys had their jackets on and ties, and there were some cool hats. If the Hutchinsons are watching, little leprechaun hat. Well, one of the boys, he had a jacket on with a tie, and he seemed to, magically have everything he needed with him. He didn't need to move at all. But at some point, he got up to go look for his recorder. And if you've ever been on Zoom with, 20 or 30 kids or people,
how awful it is.
you have to kind of, toggle back and forth on the iPad to, see everyone. So we toggle back, and there he is, sitting on the floor in his bathroom with his recorder, and the toilet's in the background.
Wasn't he wearing shorts though?
Well, so then we're all laughing. He's playing his recorder, and then at the next moment for him to get up and find something else, he stands up and he's got his jacket and tie on with gym shorts on.
Well, I don't know about you, and I think I've seen you, but it's not. There's something to be said for that. My rabbi magically appears around my neck every so often if I'm in a Zoom meeting, and I think I've seen you wearing a clerical shirt and shorts.
I have worn clerical shirts with plaid shorts at least once. Maybe just once in the last few weeks.
Any other? We wrote down some notes. Anything that we didn't hit?
Before we kind of leave the school scene, the North Attleboro High School graduate display is really cool. Right there on Landry, all the large posters of the students who are graduating, a huge banner across the street. And tonight, beginning right now, somewhere in town, community school maybe, or one of the elementary schools, I think, they're doing a parade. So I'm not sure if they're going to come by here, but anyway, once again, congrats to North Attleboro High, and kudos to all the teachers and administrators and town officials who seem to have organized a really cool honor for them in these last few days.
Our teachers really are
they've been amazing. They've just done yeoman's work these past 3
Yeah.
months. As I said this morning at the morning announcements and prayer, our teachers have gone back to school. We've all gone
Yeah.
back to school. I mean, did you ever envision any of this in
No.
seminary? I'll tell you, the Pontifical North American College never taught me about this.
No.
How to minister in a pandemic, and you got to get creative, I guess. But anything else?
One of the things that one surprising development in my own personal life in these days of pandemic, as the weather is getting warmer, as the children are out and about a little more in our neighborhoods, St. Mary's property is kind of treated like a bit of a park.
Yes.
Kind of like a town park.
Yeah, we're a
which
park.
is okay. People walk through, there's a few benches, statues to meditate on.
I'm
What-
the mean old man.
So then this is where my own personal development comes in.
You become a mean old
I've
man?
become a mean old man. For the first time ever, I opened the window last week as the kid with his skateboard was skating down the ramp of the chapel, and I yelled, "Excuse me! This is private property!" I'm like the old man. Get off my lawn.
See what I've taught him? It's bad.
It's bad.
No, it's true.
I mean, we want people to be here, but they can't be like up and down ramps. It's
Yeah.
it's a safety issue. There's plenty of grass. Of course, they love to show up at 4:30. It's like they know we're celebrating Mass because they like to make lots of noise. They're running up and
Yeah,
down.
when you hear the banshees in the background,
Yeah,
it's
that's-
not ghosts,
yeah,
it's
it's not
children
ghosts, it's
outside
children.
the chapel.
Exactly. And unfortunately, because I'm mic'd and the door is locked because we lock ourselves in, I can't go out and just say, "Get off my property." But I'd like to share one thing. One of
Go
the
right ahead.
highlights of my weekend, other than just seeing Transfiguration of the Lord parishioners, we had a very special treat on Sunday.
We did.
So, a parishioner
Who's watching?
who's watching sent Father Jack a message and said, "I was just fishing off Block Island, caught some black bass, striped bass, excuse
Striper, I
me,
think.
and gave us some.
Thanks, Pauline.
Thank you, Pauline. There is nothing better than eating fish that had just been swimming a couple of hours ago.
And Father Rodney cooked it so well on the stovetop. It was thick.
It was a very thick piece.
Thick fillet.
So it had to cook at a slower.
And it was juicy, and the texture was good.
Well, let's hope that tonight it's the same because we're having leftovers tonight.
We got
so-
2 meals out of it.
Yeah, they were big fillets. So again, thank you, Pauline.
Another culinary highlight from the last week or so was the fresh clams out of Narragansett.
Oh yes. Those
So,
and Father Jack.
thank
if
you, Bob.
Remember, thank you, Bob. You remember our first Fireside Chat? We were talking about what we like to cook, and Father Jack said, "Well, what my father and I do, we put them on the grill, put a little butter and garlic." Well, yep, they're good. They were good. Very good. Tomorrow, beef tacos.
Taco Wednesday.
Taco Wednesday.
Taco Blur's Day.
There you go, Blur's Day. Anything else on our list here?
One little shout out. I noticed that Henrietta, our friend, neighborhood friend Henrietta, is watching with us. She walks by with her mom Malia,
Yep.
and she is with her mom watching. She's precious,
Hi, Henrietta.
precious little one who comes to church.
Father Rodney says hi.
Father Jack says hi. She's
He won't call us Father.
so. Her mother tells us that when they go by in the stroller, or now she actually walks a lot.
If she does.
She'll look at the rectory or the church and say, "That's where Rodney and Jack live." And her mother says, "That's where Father Rodney and Father Jack live."
And she's adorable.
No, that's where Rodney and Jack live.
But we saw her,
She stopped by last Sunday.
Last Sunday.
In the parking lot. They were walking by, so we chatted for a little bit
Adorable.
with our masks on.
Our liturgically correct masks.
Yeah.
So, Anyway, well, other than just the information that we've given you and shared with you, I mean, we will continue to give updates via the internet. Obviously, this forum, Facebook Live, it's always a great way to get some sort of information. Again, thank you for your patience. Believe me, it is greatly appreciated. Thank you for all of your understanding, and the entire staff continues to work, and I'm proud of our staff. I really am. The work continues, and every day it doesn't stop, and I really am grateful to Monica and to Jean, to Jim, to Elaine, to Mike, everyone. Even you, Father Jock. Thanks for working. Thanks for getting up today.
Eventually. I got up.
But no. Thank you to our distinguished guests who joined us, Homer and Aristotle, Piglet, and Winnie the Pooh, our philosophers of the day, giving us some wisdom as we charter these uncharted waters.
And if you were with us over the weekend, Father Rodney preached about some serious, issues that we're dealing with racism and reform that our nation needs. And last Wednesday, we prayed a special rosary for peace and for justice. And we don't need to do any type of in-depth analysis here. And I think we've all been thinking and praying a lot. But my one comment is, it has been good to see, for the most part, maybe our prayers are working. It seems like the protests that have been happening in the major cities and in the small cities, like Attleboro, for instance, have been peaceful and meaningful. One of our parishioners, actually, she went with her husband and her children to the peaceful demonstration on Sunday in Attleboro. And if you saw the Sun Chronicle, it highlighted a little bit of heightened tension that came when the mayor spoke. But this parent's reflection was much broader, and really she reflected that it was a great moment, and there were many very good speakers whose words were received well and were meaningful. And so let's maybe be encouraged by the peacefulness of the demands for change. And
one of the things that clearly, I don't know how you feel, and please feel free to disagree with me. One of the things that I think that this shutdown has not forced us, but has really invited us as brother priests to do, is to really have some good conversation.
Yeah.
We've had some really in-depth conversations and some intense conversations, but the whole issue of race and what it means, and even just as we were preparing for this, we had an interesting conversation about maybe what I perceive to be the truth isn't not necessarily. Like, we say that New England doesn't tend to be racist, but in point of fact, there are tendencies to a certain extent in all of us. And how do we root those out? And it starts here. It starts now. And this is not Selma. I get that. And again, I don't want to get into an in-depth conversation, but I think one of the things that I preached about this Sunday is that, our children are not born racist or with racist tendencies. It's something that is learned. It's something that's taught. Our children are sponges, and we need to do everything in our power to make sure that they give rise to the change. And I think that's enough preachiness, but we are seeing history. I pray we are seeing history in a very positive way happen, because when is the racial divide going to be healed? And it should have been healed decades ago. It should have been healed centuries ago. But I really do pray, and I fervently mean that. I pray each and every day that we don't have to have this discussion forever. It needs to be put to rest. We are all created equally in the eyes of God, and our inherent dignity is there. It's not something that
we've earned. It's something that was given to us by God. Don't you agree? Homer, Aristotle, Piglet, who? They agree. They just told me so.
One of the things we learned at our last Fireside chat is that from the comfort of the pastor's study on 14 Park Street, warmed by
the fire.
A fire blazing.
Actually, it does. If I wanted it to have heat,
I can make it have heat.
So from this little spot, we can commandeer not only devices in our room, but devices in your room. So,
Alexa, play "Happy" by Pharrell Williams.
Just happy. Conway's nasty B-word.
Alexa, stop.
Stop.
What the heck was that?
Alexa, tell us a joke.
Two ninjas walk into a bar, have a couple of drinks, and pay their tab. The bartender says, "Who left this 20?"
I don't get it. Alexa, play "Happy" by Pharrell Williams from Despicable Me and Apple Music.
Happy. Acoustic version by Phil Bolton and Apple Music.
Alexa, stop.
Happy. I mean, Alexa. Okay, last chance.
Last chance.
Then we're
Alexa,
we're
stop.
stopping. Alexa, play "It's the End of the World as We Know It" and "I Feel Fine" by R.E.M.
Alexa, go on vacation. And with that, folks, have a great night, everyone, because obviously she needs to have a good night.
She's
Take
playing
care.
Amazing Grace in other places. She's telling jokes. Oh goodness.